This is what I want for the jingle on my podcast. It's going to be called John Bolton's podcast. No, that ain't falsetto. There's no you in Bolton, but I guess that doesn't matter if you're singing it. And I'm a writer. See if you can work that in some way. Basically, just make me sound awesome. Cheers.
Killer Klowns from Outer Space, day 4. I'm going to take you through basically what I recorded whilst watching it, because I think it's kind of good that you get a sort of my immediate response to things as they're happening rather than a retrospective the next morning. So here's what I recorded on my phone whilst watching. Opening scene aboard a milk float or something, ice cream van. Milk float, ice cream van. One of the women looked directly into the camera lens. That's sort of feel like that's set us up on a rough note this early on. This is exactly the kind of film I thought this was going to be. I literally can't tell if it was scripted and the scriptwriters just aren't very good, or if it was ad-libbed and the actors are just not very good, or some combination of the two. I think my biggest disappointment up to now, and you know, there have been a few, I sort of hoped that the clowns would be kind of animatronics, like the Ghoulies or Critters or something. It is effectively just people in costumes.
Killer Klowns from outer space.
Roll credits.
These two apparently go to school together, which seems unlikely since they're both clearly 40 plus. There's a scene there where the main character got back into the police car, and it's just been established that the policeman driving it, Dave, is the other guy's girlfriend's ex. That was confusing. And he kind of just got back into the car and they drove off, and you sort of think it would have been so easy for him just to have sort of jerked the car forward a little bit so he missed his footing. Just a little tiny bit of little antagonism there. But no, instead we have people dressed in big foam clown heads spraying shaving foam at each other. In a more modern climate, an ugly looking clown beckoning a little girl away from her family is quite a lot more uncomfortable than probably they intended. There's a shadow puppet thing going on. I've got high hopes that the shadow puppet bit might actually turn out to be awesome. It didn't. Oh, maybe it will, maybe it will. Okay, that was quite cool. I'll give you that one. The other thing that occurs to me is every time someone gets told that there's clowns going around killing people, the reaction's like, oh yeah, whatever, oh, you're a whack job. Whereas now, if you say to somebody, there's a clown going around killing people, your reaction would probably be, yeah. On occasion, there's dialogue it's not clever exactly, but I sort of liked it. So, for example, these two kind of youths get arrested for being out drinking and stuff. And they're all like...
It's a beautiful night. We were walking around. We didn't do nothing.
But then the deputy, Dave, is all...
You guys go to the college, right?
And the two youths kind of go...
Yeah, right.
And Dave quite reasonably asks...
Why don't you just stay there and do your drinking on campus?
Which seems a little bit unfair and harsh, I suppose. And, you know, the two teenagers do quite rightly respond.
I mean, we live in this town, too.
Which leads Sheriff, I think it's a Sheriff, Mooney, to say...
And it's scum like you that are killing this town.
And I like that line because it's a little bit of a nod to the audience that says, yeah, you know, we know that things are actually killing the town, but we know it's not these two teenagers. And I liked that. But a few minutes later, well, about 10 minutes later, in another scene where Dave and Mooney and the two main characters, I don't know what their names are, I don't care, are all in the police station together. And Dave believes them, and Mooney doesn't.
Well, now I really believe this.
And Dave's all for going off with them and trying to find these clowns, and Mooney's all like,
make a dummy out of yourself.
And I thought, that's an unusual thing to say. And then Moody continues by saying...
But you're not going to make a dummy out of me.
And my immediate thought was, I bet at some point one of the killer clowns is going to turn this policeman into a dummy. Spoilers, they did. All of this leaves me no clearer about whether I actually enjoyed this film or not. On the one hand, I love 80s, just 80s stuff. All of it. Music, clothes, hair, the lot. And especially horror films. 80s horror films are my favourite horror films because they've all been crap pretty much since the 80s, with a very few exceptions. And so I came to Killer Klowns with really high expectations. Probably that's my fault, I suppose. But I really wanted to love it. You know, it has puppets in it and 80s music and 80s everything. It's just... Ugh. But I just got bored. You know, I think the trouble with it is it makes the same mistake that one of the Halloweens makes. I forget which one. Possibly 5. In that there's this need they seem to feel for having comic relief in it. Now, it's not a scary film by any stretch of the imagination. And I can't believe it's ever been a scary film. So you don't need comic relief. You know, I went into it taking it to be a horror comedy. I mean, it's no Shaun of the Dead, but it tries. And so I don't know why there's this need to have this comic relief. Now, whether these two characters that were just kind of arsing about for the entire film, whether they're like famous stand-up comedians from the time, and so having them in the film was kind of a big coup, I don't know, but they're just irritating. All the way through, they're irritating. And so they aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be funny. If they're in it to be funny, they need to be funny. Otherwise, they're just annoying and they just ruin every scene that they're in. A lot of the kills were quite funny and quite well put together. I really liked the turning up at the door with the pizza boxes, and one of them opens the box up and there's another clown inside it. Loads of it was good, and the little guy on his bike rolling up to these bikers and then literally knocking one of their blocks off. It was really good. There was so much of it that I liked. Now that I think about it, at the time I wasn't particularly enjoying myself. It's only by looking back that I thought, actually, that scene was quite good and that scene was quite good. But that, I think, for me is the problem. The whole film was just a kind of compilation almost of enjoyable moments that didn't build to anything. Like the bit with the coming to the door and just killing people with the pizzas and stuff, and the woman having a shower, and then the popcorn that is in a clothes basket. You'd have to watch it for it to make sense. I'm not even sure it would then. Turns into like little tiny miniature clown heads on stalks, not unlike the babies in Little Shop of Horrors at the end, the little mini Audrey 2s. That was good. The clown on the bike, the shadow puppet guy, all of these little bits were good. But what they didn't do was build to a coherent, enjoyable film for me. The film is fine. It's an 80s horror film. It's cheap and it's cheerful. And whilst I will say that I enjoyed elements of it, it wasn't nearly as good as I'd hoped it would be. It wasn't nearly as good as its reputation seems to suggest that it is. And frankly, on a night when I'd intended to watch the original Halloween and didn't because of timing, because my son's going to watch it with me, the fact that my fallback was this somehow makes it worse. Because, you know, I had to watch it in the shadow of Halloween.
Come back soon for the next episode of John Bolton's podcast. What horror movie will he be reviewing? Who knows? Who cares?